it all will be.
Well, I'm joined from our London studio now by the African Affairs analyst and publisher of Africa Briefing, John Ofei-Ansah. Good to talk with you there, John. Is this election going to be any different, or are people simply going to see Frelimo win again?
Frelimo will win again, but the only difference is that this time the party that that wins in any province will appoint, the governor for that province, as opposed to the previous practice where the governors of the provinces were appointed by the central government. So this is, the only difference, this time. But we expect, Nyusi, the incumbent president, Felipe Nyusi, to win.
I'm just curious to know why he's likely to win again. I mean, his party, Frelimo, has been in power for almost half a century, and you would have thought that the people would be fairly tired of them by now. I mean, what have been the key themes and the campaign pledges in this election?
It is true, but look, we shouldn't discount the advantages of number one, incumbency, and number two, Renamo, the opposition party, which used to be a rebel movement, actually is split. There's a splinter group that is also that has contested the elections. So this might dilute, the splinter might dilute Renamo's vote in the elections. So that gives Frelimo, the ruling party Frelimo, the advantage over the opposition.
Right. So, I mean, presumably, as mentioned, that there will be lots of sort of bread and butter issues, the economy, all that sort of thing. But what about the future of what's going to be and what's predicted to be, great sort of potential wealth coming from the country's enormous gas reserves? Because, I mean, that potentially could be a big revenue sort of earner for Mozambique. Was that a big talking point in this election? And if so, how are they planning to spread the money equitably?
Yes, actually, it's been a talking point, and that, has been Felipe, the current president, Felipe Nyusi's saving grace. Because before I get to this gas, there was a scandal, a huge scandal involving about $2 billion. That happened under the previous government of the former president, Amadu Guebuza. But the current president, Nyusi, was then the defense minister who authorized, that transaction that has resulted in the arrest and prosecution of Manuel Chang, who used to be the finance minister at that time. He is still in South Africa now, awaiting extradition to the US. So that actually tarnished Felipe Nyusi's reputation a bit. But his saving grace, again, is that last week, ExxonMobil signed a huge deal to develop, exploit the huge natural gas reserves in Mozambique. I mean, that is in addition to a similar deal by Total of France that's also about to exploit, the natural gas reserves. So this is good. In fact, the Exxon's deal is the biggest private sector deal in the whole of Africa to date. So that is Felipe Nyusi's saving grace. Okay, so he's promised that, look, when this project comes on stream, we will, use the money, to help create jobs and alleviate poverty and reconstruct, the country.
But of course, for that reconstruction to take place, there's got to be a lasting peace. I mean, that 17-year civil war ended, I think, in 1992. They reached a tenuous peace in Mozambique, but since then the country has lurched from one ceasefire to another. But I mean, though it could be argued that the guns are currently silent, do you believe that this latest peace deal that they signed in August will hold?
Between the signing of the peace agreement, and the latest one that was signed in August, there has been sporadic violence, okay, especially which was triggered by Renamo contesting the 2014 election results, okay. But with this, the current peace agreement, if the Renamo is unable to win 3 or 4 provinces, chances are the violence might rear its ugly head again.
And of course, just to buttress the point that you're making, the election has already been marred by violence and allegations of electoral fraud. And as you said, the opposition Renamo party is aiming to win the local elections, at the very least in its traditional strongholds, even if it can't secure power at a national level. And there potentially could be trouble if they don't secure those victories.
Yes, I mean, there could be trouble. And again, one point I forgot to mention is that there's some Islamic insurgencies close to where in Cabo Delgado, which is next door to this huge natural gas deposits. So that is another area that whoever wins, and I believe Nyusi is going to be re-elected, that you have to look at to quell this Islamic insurgency in that part of the country.
John Ofe Ansah, publisher of Africa Briefing and an African Affairs analyst, thank you very much indeed.